Hey everyone, this is Sequel Showdown, and for our first episode, we're going to be talking about Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. So I want to ask, what is everyone's favorite movie? Me personally, I like Top Gun Maverick, but I know I wasn't alive to see the first one, so that might be a little bit biased because I actually got to see Top Gun Maverick in the theaters. I know a lot of people, like my parents, they loved the first one because they actually got to see it when they were kids, and it was like a big part of their childhood. So but I like Top Gun Maverick.
I agree with you. I think I like Top Gun Maverick as well, just because I got to see it in theaters and I got to experience all that, and I didn't get to experience the first Top Gun.
Yeah, I'd say actually I prefer Top Gun over Top Gun Maverick, just because I like the fighting scenes better. It made it more like, instead of flying through mountains and stuff like that where they did in Maverick, they were doing over the open water, and so like the dogfights with the fighter pilots just seemed more realistic to me.
Yeah, I have to say I like them both a lot. I don't think I have a favorite, and I didn't see either of them in theaters, so I didn't have that kind of significant memory that made me favor one over the other.
Yeah, I like the first one. I think it's good. I love the music, and I do actually like how they tied the music into Top Gun Maverick. I feel like they did a very good job, considering it was, I believe, 36 years apart. They did a very good job of like making Maverick feel very nostalgic. Like, even someone who didn't see it when they were a kid, I saw it when I was a lot older, I still felt that like very strong nostalgia from the second movie. And I also loved a lot of the actors in Maverick, just like Miles Teller and Glenn Powell, because they're more of like my time actors. But the first movie is still really good. I just feel like because of the times, it was cool they were able to do a lot more with Maverick.
I agreed with Carter. Actually, the first movie, how the scenes, like the dogfight scenes, were cooler and they're more realistic. I really liked that. Yeah. I just thought that was a lot more like realistic and easier to like process how it is and works.
I'd say even with the new movie and how much technology in movies and the ability to do CGI changed a lot, there wasn't much CGI that was done in the second movie, and so it stayed more realistic to like what the actual pilot would experience. And so to accomplish that, I mean, the actors had to go through intensive training themselves. It was around 4 months long that had a swimming component to it, and also they experienced all the G-forces that like any other pilot would.
Yeah, I think you were discussing earlier that it got up to 8 Gs of G-force. Yeah, it was very intense training for the actors, but I really appreciated that as an audience member, someone watching it. It felt so realistic because it was like they were actually filming in the cockpit. They were actually doing their own stunts. And I know Tom Cruise is very known for doing his own stunts, so that wasn't a surprise. He does that in all of his movies, but it was very cool to see all of the other actors who maybe haven't done stunts like this before to actually go through intense training and produce a movie that was as realistic as this one.
Yeah, I have to say, I feel like in Maverick, they definitely provide more context around the planes. As someone who doesn't know much about airplanes or aviation, that wasn't really in the first one.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it was really cool to see that, especially just being a part of like the Navy too. Like, even like stuff you hear about aviation, it was cool to get that aspect of it with the Navy and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool.
And so the first movie, they had a budget of around like $15 million, and they managed to make a movie that grossed like $357 million, which back then is a very large gross margin. And so that's amazing in itself. And then Maverick, of course, it had a larger budget because more money's available now. And so the budget was around $170 million, and it grossed about $1.496 billion, which is a large increase. Obviously a good return on investment, which showed that like the public enjoyed the movie, and some people even saw it multiple times. I know for myself, we saw it the first time in the movie theater, and then like we invited some friends over later, like 2 weeks later after to have a party and watch it again. And so that was a cool experience, just spending time with one family watching the movie, but also friends.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw it probably 3 times. I saw it the first time in theaters and 2 more times at my house, and it was with different people every time, and it was cool to hear what they had to say about it and everyone's opinions on the movie.
Yeah, I feel like, again, it just showed how popular the movie was back then and how, like, nostalgic it was for people to see how much money Maverick grossed from their budget. Like, that was a very insane. It's, like, probably one of the highest grossing movies, at least of that year. And, yeah, it was a great movie. I know even my parents, who saw Top Gun when they were kids, they were there like night 1, week 1 that Top Gun Maverick came out. Like, it was very, they're very ready to see it. They had it on their calendar type of thing, and it just proves how nostalgic it was to see it gross that much money. And I've even heard that recently Top Gun 3 has been approved. I don't think it's started filming yet, but it has been in the works. And I know they have, you know, the star actors like Tom Cruise, Jennifer Connelly, Miles Teller, and Glenn Powell, which were main characters in Maverick. So I think that's, again, it'll be interesting to see if it grosses more than Top Gun Maverick, if it's going to have the same audience pool as it did that time. But I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Top Gun 3 potentially come out. I didn't know they were making another one. But yeah, I think it may not gross as much just because it depends on when it comes out. But like if it's 4 or 5, only like less than 10 years apart, like there's still that, like, hey, that other movie just came out. And so it may be like they're rushing another one to try to capitalize on like the area, which could be a good risk. But also it may not bring the same like nostalgic factor like the other long gap did.
Mm-hmm. Has it come out about what the movie is like about or anything, or just that they're making one?
I don't think so. I don't even think they have like a filming start date. I just think it's come out that it's like confirmed that there's going to be a third one. I don't even think they have a name. Like, I literally think it's like Top Gun 3 is confirmed, and I think that's where they're out. So we're probably looking at a couple years at least until that comes out, especially because we know like Miles Teller and Glenn Powell are like doing pretty well in other projects and are pretty successful, so they'll probably need a while, assuming they're going to do as realistic of stunts as they did in the last movie. It'll probably take a long time to film and train again for it.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I remember around 2021, 2022, hearing conversation of people being more hesitant about them filming a second one because, like the saying kind of, if it's not broken, don't try to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's cool that they were able to successfully still make it like a big movie.
I didn't hear that argument, but I like that. Like, I don't disagree. Like, I love the second movie, but I could see where people are like, it's been so long. Like, you could have come out with the sequel ages ago, so like if it ain't broke, like, don't try to mess with the first one. But I think they did kind of prove it wrong a little bit because I think they kept that nostalgia. I think if they wouldn't have been able to get like the actors who were in it the first time, or like if they didn't keep the storyline, I don't think it would have gotten a positive reaction from people, especially since it was such a big movie back then.
I heard that from a lot of people who got to actually see that movie when it came out. They were just worried that it wasn't going to be the same because of how great the first movie was, but everyone who's seen it that told me that seemed to really like it and was really...
Yeah, and I feel like that's going to be another like major concern with the new one coming out, would be like, how are you going to be able to improve not only on the first one, but also on the second one that came out just recently? How are you going to be able to build off of the second one enough to make it like the same storyline, but with like a different twist to that, as like they had in the second one? It was the same storyline, but it was a different twist. Instead of being a pilot, he was more of an instructor.
Yeah, I also feel like the second, like, Maverick didn't really end on a sort of cliffhanger. Like, I feel like they edited it very good. It was like, right off into the sunset type of movie. So I'm interested to see what storyline they would spin for this one, just because obviously they have stuff to build on, like they can do more missions and get the characters back together, but there was really no like cliffhanger that would like imply that there would be another movie, so I was surprised to even see that a third one was confirmed. I had no idea that they would even try to do that.
Yeah, I didn't think there would be one either, because it was just the first one ended in the like locker room, and he wanted to be a Top Gun pilot, and was sort of laughed at a little bit. And then the second one, it just like you said, didn't really have a major ending. It just sort of ended in a good way. It ended in a good way, but not in a way where you would feel like they could make another one off of that without changing too much of the storyline.
I think it's really hard for like movie creators to like make all the 1, 2, 3 all the same level of greatness. So I'm interested to see if they can make the third one just as great as the other two, because a lot of movies tend to fall down the more sequels they make.
Yeah, I really like Brewster's character, how they kind of used Goose's son like 36 years later, so it'll be interesting if they can do something like that in, I don't know, 10 years.
I loved his character, and I thought it was cool how similar they looked. Like obviously they're actors, but I feel like they did very good in casting him, and it was interesting just to see the relationship between him and Maverick, just because I feel like he didn't have a lot of closure from his friend dying in the first film, and he always carried that guilt that he thought it was his fault. And so to see Goose in the same program, I wasn't surprised that he, pulled his papers and set him back. Like, I know Goose was really upset about that. And I get it from his perspective. But Maverick was also just trying to do a favor for Goose's mom, because I think his mom was the one who actually, went to Maverick and was, pull his papers, because, her husband died from it. And so Maverick tried to protect her in that way and not tell Goose that his mom was actually the one, and he took the blame, and it damaged their relationship for a long time, and then it continued to be damaged through a lot of the movie. But I liked how they were able to overcome and make up towards the end of the film and help each other where it counts.
Yeah, I feel like also in the first one, Goose's son is such a minor character. There's just that scene pretty much with them singing Great Balls of Fire, but then they're able to take that kind of small detail and just use that as a big base for the second one.
That was a good scene. Great Balls of Fire on the piano, and he actually played the piano too. It wasn't any fake noise or anything. He actually sat down and played the piano while that was going on. So I feel like that was a cool moment in the second one.
It makes it feel really genuine when movies do stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the overall theme of this movie, or both movies, that I really like. It all feels very genuine. Obviously there's going to be CGI and technology in any film you see, but I liked how genuine it was. You can tell, I feel like the production and the actors really cared about it. They were willing to work to, like we said, do their own stunts, do a lot of the scenes themselves, learn to play the piano for it, and that also helped, I feel keep the nostalgia from the last one. And I agree with what you said about how Goose was such a small character in the first one, but obviously everyone knew who he was. So I loved how they built upon that in the second one to kind of bring back the relationship between Goose and Maverick, and now bringing it between Brewster and Maverick. So that was cool.
I think also the volleyball scene parallel with the football scene, I thought that was cool.
That was really cool, because I liked how the base of it was teamwork, especially in the second film. They were all kind of fighting a little bit and not getting along, and I'm better, you're better. So I like how I feel Maverick kind of brought that in again, and had them work together as a team, just doing something as simple as playing football on the beach. And I really feel like that helped take them to the next step and actually work together to do this mission.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that Tom Cruise had them re-record the beach scene after having everyone go hit the gym, and then a few weeks later they re-recorded it, and the second one is what they ended up using in the film.
I did not know that. That's really cool that they re-recorded it. I did not know that at all. So the first one just not as good?
Yeah, it says that Tom Cruise didn't like the first shot, and then this is according to Screen Rant, then it says everyone was forced to go back to the gym and work on their bodies before the scene was repeated.
That's really funny, because I feel like a big part of it was, like, the fact that they were shirtless in it.
That was a huge part of it.
Because they definitely, like, they were not shy in showcasing that. I feel like the lighting was, like, very specific in that scene.
And in the first one, too.
Yeah.
They're all shirtless.
Exactly.
I feel like those scenes went viral, too, because of that.
They did. That one scene of, I think it was Rooster dancing, that was on, like, social media for, like, months after. Like,
months and months.
Months and months. Like, that was so popular from just that scene. It was just Rooster, too. And I feel like it helped a lot of people dive into, like, Miles Teller a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I've known him forever. He's been in a lot of movies, but I feel like this kind of pushed it over the edge for maybe, like, the older crowd, like maybe Gen Z who watched this Top Gun when they were a child. They got to see Miles Teller act, which is cool because I feel like he did a very good job of being Rooster in this film. I also feel like I liked the parallel between, or at least I kind of see a parallel between Iceman and Glenn Powell's character, Hangman, because it was kind of like the guy who was ranked first kind of thought he was better than everybody and wasn't as, like, willing to work in a team, but then towards the end, you know, he was the one to, at least in Rooster and Maverick's case, he was the one to help save them, like they thought they were done for. And then Hangman, Glenn Powell's character, kind of came out of nowhere and, you know, helped save them. And I feel like Iceman was kind of like that too. Like, Iceman and Maverick had a lot of tension between each other at the beginning of the film, because Iceman was considered the best, like, #1 in the program. And then towards the end, you could see them become a lot better friends, and then that friendship carried on to Maverick as well when we see Iceman play a role, which was also, I think, really great that Iceman was able to be in this film, because I know he was sick. What's his name? I think Tom Kazansky. I believe it was cancer that he had. So the fact that he was still able and willing to come make, like, a cameo in this film was, like, really amazing.
Yeah, I didn't think about that parallel, but that's, yeah, you have a really good point there. With Hangman and Iceman.
Also, one of the reasons Tom Cruise was asked during one of his other movies in, like, the late 1900s would be if he thought about making another Top Gun movie. And one of the quotes he said was, so some people felt like Top Gun was a right-wing film to promote the Navy, and that, like, a lot of kids loved it, and so, but he wanted to make sure that the kids knew that that wasn't the way war is. It's not that fun. And so that Top Gun was really just an amusement park ride, a fun film with a PG-13 rating, and it wasn't supposed to be reality. And so he thought it'd be, like, more irresponsible if he wanted to continue to make, like, Top Gun 2, 3, 4, 5, etc.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of why it was originally turned down, and maybe obviously contributes to why there's such a big gap in between the two movies in 36 years, which I feel like is very responsible of Tom Cruise. And maybe it helped having the 36-year gap, because I feel like there was a really great response in 2022 when Maverick dropped, clearly because it was nostalgic, so that actually might have gone more in their favor to wait that long and for him to turn it down originally, because there was that talk around it of not really being a good representation and people thinking it was. So I think it's cool that they actually waited for 36 years, and that's probably a fun fact that not many people know about. I think another fun fact too, just discussing the actors, is Glenn Powell, who we see kind of in a cocky personality, very similar to Iceman, like what we were saying earlier, had originally auditioned for Rooster's part, Miles Teller, who's the actor who plays Rooster, which I think is funny because I feel like he fits Hangman so well. I feel like that he like played him so well. I couldn't imagine him doing any other role. Like, I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts?
I think he played him very well too. I definitely could not imagine him in another role. I think that was just the perfect position for him to be in this movie.
I think Rooster also, he kind of keeps his past quiet, and I don't know, I have a hard time seeing Hangman doing that with his, or Glenn Powell, I guess, with his like kind of bigger personality, and like he always has a humorous character.
Yeah, I felt like he played the character well. I didn't know that he didn't even really want the role, but it just seemed like it was fit perfectly with his personality.
Mm-hmm. And I love when that happens in movies, like when someone auditions for another role originally and then they get the one they didn't maybe want, but they play it so well and you just can't, as an audience member, like imagine them being in anything else. And a little bit into our next episode coming, speaking of Glenn Powell, stay tuned for episode 2, which is going to be about Twisters. So we'll be talking about the original Twisters that came out in 1996, and then we'll touch on the Twisters that came out this year in 2024, with Glenn Powell being one of the main characters. So if you love Twisters, be on the lookout, listen for that episode, and we'll release on our Instagram, which is Sequel Showdown, all undercase, when that will be coming out. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for listening today about Top Gun.